Imagine for a moment you're in a space unlike any other to touch a game. Imagine for a second reality is bent, shifted, and time is subjective. Light is dark, and dark is light. A visage that can take you through a glimpse of a future to come, while also showcasing the best potentials of the past. When I say the word prophecy, what comes to your mind? Is it a prediction? Is it a god? Is it chaos? Or is it hope? Hopefully by the end of this video, the only word you will associate with prophecy is that of the 3-player activity in Destiny 2. The dungeon, which looks to level some of the best environmental storytelling I have ever witnessed, is a masterpiece on every scale. When I say design, you say lighting. When I say bosses, you say movement. When I say movement, you say Sandy's dream world, and when I say mechanics, you say gambit. In today's video, we will focus on the preparation to be ready for the dungeon itself, what implications it has on the future, why it could be disappearing, and what scary reality the prophecy tells us is coming. Get hopeful for the future. Use code EVAN for 10% off of gamer subs, and journey through this cubism-shaped dimension. Here we go. Some footage in this video is from players around the community. Their links will be in the description of this video, as well as the music too. 100,000 subscribers. Thank you all, and expect a thank you video soon. Destiny 2 Season of Worthy and Season of Dawn were both okay at best for a few good moments, but really just fell short of the mark for most players. They were missing that feeling of being overwhelmed and being excited to grind. Sure, there were some new activities, but activities were easy, systems of loot incentive were poor, no exclusivity of rewards, and boring/tedious grinding which made everyone in the community lose their minds. So, when the reveal stream for Destiny 2's new expansion Beyond Light came out, at the same day the new season of Destiny was supposed to be released, the Destiny community was nervous to say the absolute least. How would this risk of not showing us anything for the season, but releasing it the same day as a massive reveal for fall pan out? Would the fall reveal become a way to shield a PR nightmare for the season? How far could we slip? And what could save the company from losing faith yet again from a player base that is desperate for something great? How about Season of Arrivals?
From Titan to Mercury, their shadow reaches.
Is their message a warning? A trick? We can't know until we hear their words for ourselves.
You bring weapons. You will not need them.
Pyramid ships everywhere. A Savathun storyline. Gambit 3, returning Fantastic Swords future video, a season pass that hits the mark on the head, revamped reward structures, aspirational loot, great new mods, a large chase for power, and plenty of activities to farm. I'm looking at you AFK Forge farmers. Above all, that feeling of being overwhelmed had returned to me for the first time since the release of Forsaken 2 years ago, because while Shadowkeep was good, it was just a giant teaser that fell short of its predecessors. Season of Opulence was cool, but the day 1 raid race was a nightmare, and the menagerie stopped being fun to play after a few times through. Loot was great though. Getting back to the reveal, not only was the Season of the Arrivals announced, but it came with a brand new free-to-play dungeon with some fantastic looking aesthetics, and players were antsy to get cranking on leveling up for it. The Season of Arrivals started players at 1010 power with the grind to 1050, then pinnacles to get to 1060. Umbral engrams, pinnacle activities, bounty farming, and planetary vendors to give what is called a +0 drop was your best friend. In short, a +0 is when you are at a certain power level and you have gear that may or may not be holding you back from getting to the next level. So planetary vendors have a chance to give you what you need for planetary materials. It's a definite way to gain levels consistently, and the teams who were racing to be first in the dungeon were going to need as many levels as possible. Seeing how the season started at 1010 and the final boss was 1060, with the average level of the dungeon being 1040. Most players going into the dungeon who were grinding were going to be around power level 1020 or a little higher. The teams that min-max the most efficiently and the most effectively were going to be at about 1030 to 1040. The dungeon was set to come out around 7 hours after the season's release, and after all the grinding was done, players were antsy to drop in as fast as possible. It was time to begin. All of these new and revamped systems felt ever so refreshing, knowing there was a place for me to take everything I had earned into an activity that is layered in everything the series' best parts features and with a charm and character to itself. It's rare when playing an activity in Destiny at this point to not reference it to something else that had come before it, but this dungeon for the most part had and has its own identity that most raids can't even establish. When I say that this dungeon to me is on par with the raid Last Wish and large raids in Destiny 1 in quality, it's not to knock any other raid or dungeon before it, it's to give full credit where I believe it is due. So let's talk about the Prophecy dungeon and start out with our first encounter. The opening to the dungeon, the Heaven and Hell hallway. This is a fantastic first time environment with light and dark being manipulated and knights being the key to your success. Upon killing knights, they drop motes like... yeah, like in Gambit. Except this time the motes and the Gambit-like features actually has some well thought out mechanics as to when you're standing in areas of light and kill knights, they drop motes of light. The same can be said for darkness and dark motes. Upon having 5 motes, you can slam a light or a dark area, depending which type you have, and open the next door. At the end of this pathing, a Taken Captain watches you from a distance and teleports away as you approach. Who is this? Why are they there? We will have to find out later into the dungeon. Anyways, on to our first real encounter and boss fight to start it off, the Phalanx Echo. Surrounded by this gyroscope room, this fight was much of the same from the previous sections. Cleansed plates of light and dark. The cool mechanic to this one and this whole dungeon really was never getting too comfortable where you stand, because it's a phalanx, which means you're getting booped out of the arena, plus the small space to stand on. There are knights trying to shoot you with fire at your feet the whole time, and oh, when you cleanse a plate, the arena completely shifts where light and dark stand. I love this encounter personally, since you cannot stay still and must adjust accordingly. And this boss was a good day one challenge, but one that I feel most teams will handle easily as time passes. I feel like the solo of this dungeon is where this boss truly stands out, as that feeling of worry hits much harder with everything looking at you and not your whole team. After defeating the boss, where was the path to go? It was under your feet the whole time.
I'm sorry, I thought it was next. I thought it was the next round, boy.
Yeah, that's not as well. Like as we're spawning, you would think the DPS is
We killed him.
I don't.
We got it. That. Let's go! All right, I got boots. Augers.
I got a cloak.
All right, we gotta figure out where to go. I think it's probably up. Puzzle. It's gotta be up. Yes, there's doors over here. Doors on the outside wall. I don't know if you jump over here.
Come here. It looks like a fucking portal.
Oh yeah, 100%. We're idiots.
This is the Wasteland, a place where everything is subjective with only one objective goal in mind: explore. You will notice a few things. Number 1, the Taken Blights in the distance to kill. 2, invisible minotaurs roaming the land. 3, the pure scale and lighting. And 4, familiarity in locations like Mars, Mercury, Titan, and Io buried in the sand. Oh, and also these weird eyeballs around the area. I'm sure those will be an exotic quest or something like that, but for now, these are just creepy. What are the 9 trying to tell us though, and why these locations specifically? I have a theory supported by evidence that we will touch on when we return here, but for now, the objective was to kill every blight in the area, then advance into the next encounter. But just don't forget your secret chest.
Wait, how'd you get in there? You just went through there?
Look, come here. I'm gonna keep looking around.
Oh, secret chest. Jack, clip that.
On to the next path, Cubism. Welcome to the room where perspective shifts and the cube dictates what is wrong and right. Hexahedron. Objective, escape. This challenge held mechanics of the first with light and dark, but now there were hobgoblins shooting from the rafters, and once you slammed the correct side, the Tolan side, you stood in the middle and the room shifted into another. What was the floor is now the wall. What was the wall is now the ceiling. If you didn't figure out the Tolan side mechanic of slamming where the shade was, this could take so many rounds to complete as it would be about guessing, but if you knew which side to slam, it went by rather quickly. At the end of these rounds, 2 final taken Centurions stood in your way. They were pretty easy kills. Now just watch out for the hole.
I don't think it was any later than this.
Frick this, dude!
What tomorrow?
Now, where do we go? Do we exit through the sand again? Up in the air? Nope. It was time to return to the Wasteland.
Get the left guy. Get the right guy now. They're both dead. Both dead. We're done. Let's go.
Let's go. Return to Wasteland. It says return. Chest.
I got the Death Adder.
So, why are we returning to the Wasteland if we've already been here, explored, and even reaped the rewards of a chest? Well, to move past this taken captain and go on to the next encounter, of course, he said, knowing he would tell the audience later why we really are back here. Trust me, stick along with this video and we will get to the explanation, as it is very important. Moving on to the next encounter though, through a 2001 Space Odyssey-like hallway, it was time to reach Rainbow Road, or more specifically, Sandy's Dream Slide, Singularity. What can I even say here that hasn't been said? It's amazing. This is on an unreal scale. It's pure fun and adrenaline. And this is exactly the kind of encounter that differs from the norm enough to put it on the greatness level of a dungeon. Around the depths of this place are slide-like ribbons and obelisks hosting taken enemies with taken vandals trying to snipe at you from a distance. In the far outreaches, there is what seems to be replicas of the same environment. And I believe those are other worlds and tie in with the Nine's weird string theory-like build. But I will let you look more into that. This room was and is an absolute blast with steep and scary slopes to cross. The options in the way players can utilize this environment is awesome. Do the race, take shortcuts, or just use the Wings of Sacred Dawn on the Warlock and skip all of it in its entirety. I'm sorry I even brought that one up. Chat! Oh, we did it! Please don't, you f***.
Did you boot me?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm dead now, though. What?
Yeah, all these poor sparrows lost to the void.
Hey, Ghost. Transmit another?
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah,
I can't go up. Okay. There is actually an invisible wall there.
Also, a secret chest. I believe this room will be fun to figure out the fastest route for speedrunners and players who want to challenge themselves, as there's so much to learn here and so much to take in. Well done, Bungie. is this captain? Why doesn't this captain have a name? Matter of fact, why don't any of the taken enemies here even really have names? They're all just echoes. What could that really mean? I'm excited to share with you my theory a bit later into this video, but for now, this room, sharing the same mechanics we're used to in this dungeon, has 3 taken captains on each side and must be moved around in order to use light and dark motes. Once motes are slammed, an ogre spawns in place of the captain and must be killed. Once all 3 sides are cleansed, it's time to drop down into the sand once again, this time teleporting to a whole new area to do damage. The mechanic this provided was movement. Instead of throwing a normal taken captain orb that did damage and blinded your screen, the boss teleported you backwards with the taken attack. The boss also provided a debuff called entropy, so you had to stay close in order to not die, as times 10 entropy meant death. So no sitting in a corner with a sniper allowed. I loved this fight, and I still love this fight, as I think lots of people will too. No sitting in one place, run and gun was the only option. Only real challenge in your way besides the boss was the taken hobgoblins in the room trying to ruin the fun, and on day 1, these guys meant business. One other fun fact I learned here listening to the music is that the boss room music is a remix of Leviathan from the first raid of the game. Interesting. Wonder what that could mean. All in all, this was a great fight, and will continue to be a great fight. And I think this is the reaction the whole community felt on that day, and definitely on your first time through.
Keep tagging him, just in case.
Just let's go. Put the fuck on him. Let's go.
Don't get slammed. Don't get slammed. Dunk him. Dunk him. Dunk him.
Dunk him. Dunk him.
Move, 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 move! Weapons! Refresh weapons! Let's go!
Let's go!
Good shit.
Get ready! New objective, get in the portal, get in the portal, Sneak, get in the portal!
I'm here.
Let's go! We did it! Let's go! Holy shit! That was sick!
Big dicks, baby!
Let's go! Dude, that was awesome!
Sick, bro! I got a Kell Echo shotgun, man!
Let's go! Let's go!
The reward from the final encounter was a guaranteed piece of exclusive armor to the dungeon in the Dido armor set, and I really love this as it gives us a reason to play outside of fun or powerful loot. The dungeon is also replayable for extra loot every single time, not just powerful, but random rolls much appreciated. So this begs the question then, what the hell did we just play, and what is the significance? Who is the captain? Why are these locations sunken into the ground? Who is the giant head, and why is the dungeon going away after this season? Let's discuss. We return to the Wasteland. Other than seeing our returning captain in the distance, there was an emissary. The same one that was featured in Trials of the Nine and Reckoning. This emissary was floating above Titan, Mars, Mercury, and Io, and each time you visited the emissary, it disappeared. Eris and the Drifter would commentate on it, and here is what they had to say.
This looks like the new Pacific Arcology.
On Titan? What's that got to do with the darkness? Sloan has that neighborhood on lockdown.
The Hive nest there in the ruins of the Golden Age, and a Leviathan of untold strength has made it her home.
I danced with the dark. The Hive are not the dark.
The Hive are the children of darkness, as we are of the light. I'll speak to Sloan. Maybe she's seen something. This looks like Mercury, but no traces of Osiris's light or saints. It's a counterfeit.
This is Nine space. They control reality here, and they did this for a reason.
It must be part of their answer to the question. How insufferable.
I'm launching spectral analysis of the Guardian's positions. Not exactly our Mercury. No tree of probabilities. No infinite forest.
What do you seek? A means to walk the corridors of time? Haven't you learned from Osiris's mistake?
Osiris took the sundial with him, wherever it is he went. I always wanted to take that thing for a spin. Hey, Moondust. You know Vanguard. Why do you hang with them?
Ikora and Zavala are dear friends. Even if we don't always see eye to eye. To eye.
You should take it easy. Learn to relax. You're ghostless now. Go live your life. Vanguard business won't end well for you.
Ghostless or not, my objectives would not change.
I've known ghostless all my lives. Trust me. Live it while you can. No one gets a happy ending.
And do you think those with ghosts do?
Actually, no. Guess I don't.
Right.
Hey, how you living, Moondust?
Rasputin prevented an extinction-level event when he smashed the Almighty above the city.
Why does everybody say it like that? Extinction-level event. We're down to one city. I could cause an extinction-level event.
And now the war mind is gone. What will we do the next time the clock strikes midnight? The Witch Queen waits to strike. The Emperor of the Cabal has yet to act in the face of the Paracausal fleet. The end could come at any time.
Sister, I've had a bug-out bag since the Dark Age. I'll be all right.
Eris and the Drifter are discussing multiple teases at multiple things here. Number 1, darkness and light, how we cannot have one without the other. The tease of Savathun's power, Calus' rejection to help us, and finally, how the end could come at any time for these locations. This is why I believe the mechanics of the dungeon are built the way they are. Darkness needs light to survive, and light needs darkness. The Prophecy Dungeon is warning us of this. I believe the Taken Captain is there to represent the prophecy of Eramis, this fall's antagonist who has used darkness as a vessel, and the enemies we fight being Hive Knights to be the prophecy of Savathun in the future as well. The Cabal enemies, a Phalanx boss, and Leviathan music at the end being a prophecy of a Calus storyline potentially in the future too. The locations being buried being a prophecy of what's to come soon, with our new directory this fall removing all 4 of those locations. I wonder how they're going to be removed. This dungeon is one large tease for years of content to come, and the 9 have predicted it this way on purpose. Now, this is all theory of course, but with Bungie showing us not just this fall's DLC, but 2 more years of DLC names, to me, this makes sense, and it makes sense what I'm about to explain next. This dungeon, a dungeon that I believe to be an absolute masterpiece, will be going away at the end of the season, and I think there is a significant reason why. It would not make sense story-wise to have it this way forever. If we have a dungeon called Prophecy, where the 9 are telling us the outcome of what is to come soon with Eramis like Echo at the end of the dungeon and dialogue preluding this fall, then why would it stay if we're gonna fight Eramis next? Wouldn't the prophecy be better if the 9 returned with a new one? New encounters, new bosses, new environments, or just the same environments with new bosses and new voice lines? To me, it makes sense to lose it for now and add it later with new storylines to unravel. We learned so much from the environmental storytelling this dungeon provided, and I'm sure Bungie doesn't want this to become another relic of the past we once had, like Whisper and 0 Hour. They want the content to stay relevant, and it does align well with the 9's place in the story. That being said, that's just my theory. For all I know, this is going away so Bungie can fix some loot system problems for this fall. But what do you think the reason for this dungeon going away is? That is the Prophecy Dungeon. And there's so much more I didn't even get to discuss, like the extra voice lines on multiple playthroughs, a potential exotic quest, the escalation protocol loot, hidden lore, and way, way more. But if you want to chat about that, we can have a discussion on Twitch, the comments, or on Twitter, or in my Discord, all in the description. But if you did enjoy this video, a like would be greatly appreciated, as well as a subscription. Thank you, and on to the blooper. Have a good one, everyone.
The Nine were utilizing both light and dark to fight the Guardian. Drifter, what have you done, you insufferable rat man?
Hey, our mutual friend had a question. We all did. So we asked the Nine.
What was the answer?
Isn't it obvious? Light and dark are means to survival. It's not about saints or sinners.
The Vanguard wouldn't abide that answer.
Vanguard ain't here. I'm sick of their dogma. What do you think, Chosen One? Come on back, and I'll get you paid.
Easy every time. Anyone who can't sparrow that, don't want to associate.
What?
Oh my God, dude. Holy sh!